Hi everyone, I'm Vito and today I'm here with Dan from Proactive Code, and we're going to be talking about how Dan went from working with spreadsheets and countless of emails to literally zero training with clients, doesn't even talk to them about training anymore at all, as well as using WP Feedback Pro as a selling point for additional projects. So far, he accredited to the tool more than £10,000 just by adding software that systemizes the work. And of course, there's loads of other benefits I want to hear about. Dan, I want to hear how you grew your business. You doubled your business over the past year. And so how are you today?
Yeah, all good, thank you. Being kept very busy, but yes, all good.
Okay, perfect. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your agency, Dan, and what you guys have been up to.
Yeah, so Proactive Code started about 5-6 years ago now with a couple of clients. Those couple of clients grew from a handful of people to now, in one case, hundreds of people, nice. And we're growing year on year. So I had my first employee start about 3 years ago. He left last December. So this year I started completely by myself without any employees, and we're now up to 2 full-time members and 2 additional part-time members on top of that, and potentially we're looking to expand from there quite soon, shortly.
That's awesome.
So it's very much a growing business.
Brilliant. And who do you help with? Do you have any sort of focus or niche that you work with, or is there some kind of more generic? Yeah.
So we're obviously just WordPress websites. That's our core focus. We're an agile company. We try to take on board, I guess, a similar workload to larger agencies who charge £100 plus per hour. We do it at a fraction of that price, and we do it in a way which is much more a much nicer relationship with the customer. We chat in a much more friendly way, and we try and press projects through in a much shorter time period, which of course is why we use the feedback tool.
That's awesome. And so I want to take you back to the beginning, before you started using WP Feedback Pro. What was your system like? How did you communicate those revisions, gathering the content?
Hundreds and hundreds of emails, too many to speak of. So I'd usually start my day by going through emails, and at first it was just half an hour. I had maybe 5-10 emails. Then a couple of years later, it was about 20 emails. And then I reached a point a couple of years ago where I started my day, and I'd finish going through my inbox at 11:30. And then by that point, I'd have had more emails. So it was almost an infinite process of emails that never stopped.
So that was the process throughout. So not only going through the emails, but sifting through and filtering which one is for which client, and then jumping in and out of them. I imagine that was the kind of game.
Yeah, we started using some quite clever tagging on the email so that we could try and find who had sent what at what time. But it's just an impossible task, and it relied on quite a lot of time-consuming manual tagging on emails, and it's just not a sustainable system as things got bigger.
And what were you basically trying to solve by joining our platform?
So at the time, I was looking at the competition, and I was just trying to find a way that we had a big spreadsheet. So with these emails, I was then manually pasting key bits of information to a spreadsheet, which would let me know what priorities I needed to do on any given day. And again, that just kept growing at an infinite rate. And I wanted a system to formalize those tickets. And at first I was just looking for something that would email a client to let them know that a ticket had been done. Right. And then I noticed that on your platform, the customer could make their own tickets. I wouldn't have to do it anymore. Yes. And I calculated that would be maybe an hour or 2 saved a day, just on that one job, possibly more. And that was the real selling point for me.
That's awesome. You were trying, as you were trying to solve this problem, so basically just trying to systemize the work, you're saying that you started moving into spreadsheets. Is that where it ended, or did you kind of get any further before you joined us in terms of trying to fix that issue?
So yeah, I spent a lot of time trying to get the spreadsheet. And so I say spreadsheet. It wasn't just me copying and pasting data into a spreadsheet. I created filters. I created special
Right.
logic for the spreadsheet. If a ticket had, I could prioritize, and I could do all sorts of things. So I'd literally spent days and days just trying to make this thing as usable as I could. And then I was spending longer trying to teach my then colleague how to use the system, and the poor guy didn't have a chance because it was completely bespoke to what I'd had done on any given day. And I knew that if I ever brought on board anyone else, they would have to learn this as well.
Right.
So training on top of everything else was a bit of a nightmare.
I see. Okay, so that now this just doesn't happen. You don't have this just automates the whole process, start to finish.
Yes, obviously I originally came on board with this system for clients, but clearly it's helped internally as well. It's another thing that I don't need to teach people what to do,
Right.
and it's formalized the process.
Awesome. And Dan, where did you hear about us first?
So it was when I think it was an email from Divi at the time.
Right.
It was just saying, hey, this is here, and it integrates with the theme that you are using. So I think it was something as simple as that.
Awesome. And like now, after you started using this, what kind of results did you started to see early on when you start only installing it on a couple of websites?
So early on, I didn't really know. I'm always quite cautious with third-party tools because I found that I don't know. I'm a bit of a control freak, so I don't like surrendering control.
You have to be if you want to be a business owner.
Absolutely. So I was still quite defensive of my spreadsheeting back then. I was thinking, well, I've got this. I've spent some money, but maybe it won't work out. So maybe I'll still use my spreadsheets. And I deployed it on a couple of websites, and I noticed that clients were actually using it. And at that point, I suddenly realized, actually, yeah, maybe this was a genuinely better approach than manually doing this on a spreadsheet. And so I cautiously sort of installed it on a couple more websites. And then basically before I knew it, we had nearly all of our websites on it, and we were getting active feedback from clients.
I saw that you have websites on there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So should I hang on?
Yeah,
so we're now up to a full screen worth, but that's not all of them. There's more. There's scrolling involved.
Yes.
So yeah, we've got every client on board now, and it's part of our onboarding process. It's one of the only formalized processes that we have with clients.
So you started telling me before that as you're onboarding clients, now you don't need to train them at all. So what was the process before, and how does it looking now?
So there was no process for the client. They would send through jobs haphazardly via email. Some people were texting me, some people were WhatsApping me, and some were Skyping me. So it was me trying to group all of that into a single spreadsheet. The client would do whatever they wanted.
Right.
And it was bad for me, obviously, because it was time consuming, but it was bad for them as well, because if they sent something through, they might not remember what medium they used to send it. And then
record.
Exactly. So they sometimes were chasing things, and they didn't know if I'd responded because they couldn't remember how they'd sent it. So maybe I had responded, but they hadn't, opened Skype in a month. So now all I'm doing for each customer is saying, look, this is the ticketing system. This is what you are doing. And I don't need to go into detail. I just say, there's something on the side of your screen. You'll notice, click what you want changing, and type a message, and have a look through some of the tabs. You'll notice there's other bits in there. So if you want to prioritize a ticket, do it. I've never really had to explain anything. Everyone has just got it, and that includes technophobes and people that don't really know what they're doing when it comes to anything website related.
So you were telling me about this guy that is truly a technophobe. Like he didn't want to accept anything, and then what happened?
Yeah, so I somehow managed to attract really interesting entrepreneurial sort of types who are serial sort of business creators, and usually the kind of people that I'm getting on board with, they're really, really good and passionate about creating businesses, but they're less good at the technical side. So I recently had a client who essentially he had a failed relationship with a previous developer, and the relationship failed because the snagging list was never getting done. It was never getting completed. Right. And there was, I think literally the first conversation I had with him was, look, Dan, I've worked with you before. I've worked with this other developer now. He's made my wife cry because we've gone backwards and forwards, and he's not listening to what we're saying, and you know she is now upset, and wow. This led to a complete breakdown. So he said, look, can we host this with you? Can we transfer it to you? And I said, yes, we've got a new ticketing system. This was he hadn't seen this before. And he transferred it. Well, we migrated the site for him. We pulled it over. We installed the ticketing system. And I hadn't mentioned anything more about the ticketing system. I'd installed it, and that was it. I mentioned to him via email at that point that, hey, I've migrated your site, and that was basically it. I said, you know, there's a system on there. Upload any tickets that haven't been, you know, any snagging issues that you want doing. And then I think it was that evening out of the blue, he called me and said, Dan, I don't usually do this, but this ticketing system is amazing. I'm blown away by it, and I just thought I'd ring you to let you know, because I think this is a real, you know, it's real value added.
That's awesome.
And as far as I no one has ever done that to me before. No one has ever phoned me just to provide a compliment on software that we've launched.
That's amazing.
So clearly this is adding value, and that's what we're trying to achieve.
Okay, that's perfect. And so I want to ask you a little bit about some of the improvements that you've seen over the past year, because you've really been with us right from the beginning. What would you say improved in your business, so even if you're in your life, compared to your experience managing those clients beforehand?
So from my point of view, there's been an overdependence on me in this business. I have become the bottleneck. I'm working late at nights. I'm working weekends, and increasingly, I felt that there was no easy way out of this. I would need to hire someone that could essentially do my role, but that was the only way I could see me sort of not having to do the hours that I was working. So I'm basically starting to now pull out of that situation, because I can see that there are tools that will allow me to loosen myself from being this bottleneck that I currently am. I can get clients to submit their own tickets. I can get my team to pick up those tickets without me being involved and without me chasing via email. So there are pieces to WP Feedback Pro that I'm not using yet. And that I can still proceed with and develop on. So I'm not there yet, and it's more because of my own poor time management more than anything else. But even now, it's really helped structure my day, and it will continue to do that, moving forwards. And there are things that I'm really looking forward to deploying over the next sort of month or so.
That's awesome.
So I'm just going to keep pressing that forward, keep trying to loosen myself from being this linchpin in the business.
Okay, that's perfect. And this is in continuation of the conversation that we had just before hitting the record button. We're going through your workflow and pointing out a few things that can alleviate a lot of these additional stress points within the business. Again, without leaving the platform once.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems silly that I've been receiving all these emails, and I know that I knew that there were features that I knew that would be handy for us. But I for whatever reason, there's always been some other job that I thought I'd do first. I'm really glad we've taken the time today to go through those.
Well, just before we kind of wrap up, I wanted to kind of try and quantify a little bit the ROI of this tool for your business. Let's say you needed to make that decision now. How would you quantify the return on the investment that you made into WP Feedback Pro?
Even if it was just my time. So, if I look back at the amount of time I was spending just on spreadsheets prior to the plugin, I would say that I've essentially completely removed that time investment entirely. So we've gone from at least a couple of hours minimum a day in spreadsheets So, you know, we charge we charge X amount. So it's at least, you know, around 120 pounds a day, depending on you know, fluctuations in time involved. So,
Right.
you know, it's a lot of money, and it's help because I can then put that into actual, you know, actioning tickets rather than
Yes.
admin tasks. So I guess if you're talking 100 times 5, so it's 500 pounds a week. So it would be a staggering amount if I tried to calculate
Right.
it. It's a lot.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds exactly like this because you were really in the trenches there when it comes to those copy paste procedures. And I was there as well, you know, when I was running the agency before this thing, that was my day. You know, you wake up in the morning, 2 hours of emails where you just take screenshots or copy paste into Slack or into Skype for that other subcontractors, and you know, it's just a mess. That's awesome. So now I want to ask you, like, as you were seeing the product, you know, when you were first joining us, what was the thing that kicked you over the fence when it comes to making that decision on the spot?
I think just because it was different. It was a different type of. When I was looking at the other options, and you know, let's not kid ourselves. There are loads of options out there if we're trying to formalize ticketing systems.
Sure.
The thing that made this different was the intuitive way that customers themselves could get on board, and having.
You think, sorry, go ahead.
I've worked with other digital agencies in our area. So we're in Leeds in the UK. So I've worked with other agencies, and they're using some of the other options I've used, and I've spent ages trying to figure out their systems, and it's not always an easy an easy method of sharing feedback, and it certainly doesn't seem very intuitive. So right. I've never had to worry about any of that with you know, this tool. People just pick up on it and they know what they're doing, and it's as simple as that.
That's awesome. And now, would you recommend this to any other freelancer or agency out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I already have. I've recommended it to a few people.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Well, perfect. Well, just kind of before we wrap up, Dan, I want to ask you, like, from now, as you're growing your agency, I'm sure that there's a lot of people that are watching this and going through the same processes you're going right now. What would be your number one advice for other agency owners?
I think just don't do what I do. Don't try and use emails and spreadsheets because you might be able to manage it at first, and it might be workable initially, but if you grow, it will not scale.
Right. Yeah.
And I think what I should have done from the get-go is looked at systems that will allow me to scale, because not having that in place from the get-go really, you know, it cost us money, and it cost you know, client stress, and that's not what you want to do. So certainly getting the right tools in the right places is critical.
Awesome. And finally, Dan, where can people find out more about you and your business?
So at the moment, we're actually going through our own internal sort of revisit. So we've got a coming soon page at proactivecode.com.
Classic, but yeah, you know, it's always like that.
It's everyone else's sites before our own. So we had a week last week to start cracking on with our own design, and we actually got quite far. We're gonna get it up and running shortly. But yeah, we'll have our own website back up and running with blog posts and whatnot shortly.
So that's going to be like
if anyone wants
proactivecode.co.uk.
So I think we've got .co.uk. I think it just redirects back to .com. Proactivecode.com I think is our main domain. Yeah, awesome. But yeah, if anyone wants any advice, feel free to let us know. We don't grow through advertising or anything like that. It's always been referral, and this is part of the reason why this is important, because we want to keep our customers as happy as we can, because they're the ones that recommend us.
Yes.
And I almost feel that if we ever need to you know, really try and push ourselves in AdWords or Facebook or what have you, we've sort of failed, because we've never had to do that. We've always grown naturally. So yeah,
that's the best way. You know, that means you're doing a good job.
But if anyone wants help or advice, let us know. We're more than happy.
That's perfect. Well, thanks a lot for taking the time to get on this call with me, Dan. It was a pleasure, man.
Yeah, no, it was really good. Thank you very much for your time.